It is fall equinox, and it is the balance point of the year when everything changes after this. And this is the day my luck is changing. And today I am eating food.
Welcome to the Wild Dispatch.
Hello and welcome to the 100th episode of the Wild Dispatch. I'm Robin and I'm back with more skills and stories from the wild. We have a fantastic guest today, Woniya Thibeault. What a legend. I'm amazed and very grateful that she decided to come on the show. For those of you that don't know who Woniya is, she has been on the Alone show twice. She was on Alone Season 6 and also Alone Frozen. But before she even was on Alone, she has been a legend within the wilderness skills and surthrival world for many, many years. She is the mastermind behind Timeless Ways, which was previously known as Buckskin Revolution, and also the author of her book Never Alone, which was following Season 6. So we have a lot to talk about today. I'm excited to jump into that conversation any second now. But first, I wanted to just give another announcement. For anyone who's new and doesn't know already, we are doing a huge giveaway to celebrate episode 100. We have 12 sponsors who have come on board and are giving away prizes. I'm going to do the list for that now, but I need to look it up because it's too long for me to remember off the top of my head. Okay, we have Lancaster Archery, Eastern, Ethics Archery, Tarp Tent, VAP Broadheads, Magnus Broadheads, Western Obsession TV, the Mission Fly Fishing Magazine, Mavengana Fly Fishing, Strand Coffee, Wilderness Athlete, Onyx Hunt, and Backcountry Hunters and Anglers. So, what a list. I think that might even be 13. I may have lost count. A huge thank you to everyone who's agreed to give away to this amazing pot. All you need to do is head over to @TheWildDispatch on Instagram. There is a tagged post there which has a giveaway announcement. Just click on that and it will give you the information about how to go there and how to sign up for the competition. Get over there. There's some really cool stuff that you can get your hands on. Okay, that's enough housekeeping for now. Here is our fantastic episode with Woniya. Woniya, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you. Happy to be here.
Now, did I pronounce that correctly? I want to make sure.
Woniya.
Okay, perfect. Woniya. So, in preparing for this conversation, if I'm honest, there's so many different things that we could talk about, so we'll never have enough time to possibly cover the list of possible things that we could chat about that I have here. But first of all, hello, welcome. I'm super excited to have you here, and I'm really chuffed that you're here for the 100th episode, so that's super exciting. Thank you for being here for this milestone.
Love it. Yes, I'm kind of a numbers person. I like prime numbers and important numbers, so I think it's just perfect. I'm thrilled too.
Okay, nice. Has that always been the case when you were younger as well?
No, it was something about my Alone Season 6. You're out there and there's so little, and so you got to find meaning in the passage of time. And so I just kind of built this thing around prime number days were going to be something special. And so it kind of became more of a thing while I was out there.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Is there, and did you find that became reality? Because, I mean, the power of the mind is an incredible thing, right? So if you're building...
it absolutely did.
Yeah?
Yeah, all kinds of interesting, magical things happened on prime number days. Yeah, like I think on one of them, I found an arrow that I'd been looking for a really long time. I'm trying to remember now. I'd have to go back and look at my book, honestly, because I know I wrote about it in that. But that was in 2018, so it's been a minute. But yes, there are all kinds of amazing and magical things that happened on prime number days. And I turned 43 while I was out there, and I left on day 73, both of which are prime numbers.
There you go.
Yeah. And then my baby was born on the 17th, which is also a prime number. So.
Yeah, there's if anything, actually, this podcast has taught me in all the conversations I've had with amazing people is that you don't know And like, there's so many different ways of looking at things, and I don't know, it's just like my mind has been open to so many different ways of seeing or observing or realizing how the world works. And that has just been absolutely mind-boggling. So it's always lovely to hear how people interpret the world around them or perceive it.
I love it.
But I am waffling. The thing I was going to ask you, first of all, is, as long as I've been following your story and you've been kind of on my radar, you've been known as Buckskin Revolution. That's your website and that's been your hub. And that's been like that for a long time, if I understand correctly. But that's recently evolved to something else. And I was wondering what that change has been to and why.
Yeah, wonderful question. So when I first started calling myself my business Buckskin Revolution, I was much more focused on buckskin as one of my main things, but I never intended it to be just about buckskin. I consider buckskin kind of a symbol for the movement back to the skills of our ancestors, because it's something so visible and so visceral and so magical. It's alchemical. You take this disgusting, partially rotted, often hide, and turn it into the most amazing leather on earth. So it's so much more than just this piece of leather. And a lot of folks who are interested in ancestral skills and choosing this different life way, more connected to land-based skills, wear buckskin. It's by far the most ecological material, I would say, on earth, much more so than your, organic bamboo and this and that, which are all actually still very much industrial processes. Buckskin is kind of the one thing that hasn't been industrialized, or the one leather at any rate. So I viewed it as a symbol and this overarching umbrella. But what happened is I found that I was often just getting pigeonholed with people assuming that what I did was leather work. And so I found that it no longer, that one is that I've definitely expanded a lot more out of just buckskin as a focus. It was never the only thing, but it was certainly a focus. And now my focus is so much broader. And also just this idea that I don't want people assuming that I'm a leather crafter, full stop.
Yes.
So my new name is Timeless Ways, because it represents these ways of being that, yes, they are the skills of our ancestors, but then a lot of people think that relegates them to the past and that they're no longer relevant. And what I believe is true is that these are the ways that are timeless. As long as people need shelter and food and clean water and connection, these skills are totally relevant. And so they are really, the overarching sweep of time, then today and into the future. These are the timeless ways that really make us human and make us feel connected to ourselves, community, and the land around us.
Great answer. And also, I think, we just talked about this. I think this was before we were recording, but we were just talking about how technology is great until it stops working.
Right?
And
yes.
I think the danger is there are these timeless ways that many of us have forgotten. Yeah. And then suddenly if something changes or we're in a situation, it could be something as simple as a disaster scenario or something more, I don't know, sinister in the future. That's going to be a tricky situation for a lot of people who don't know this knowledge, right?
Exactly. Yeah, absolutely.
So I guess it probably makes sense to, I think, give a little bit of context. I'll do a setup and explain. You've been on Alone twice and all that fun stuff. And I'd love to talk to you about your experiences on Alone. But I also really enjoy diving into people's story about what made them who they are and how they ended up having those experiences. So If we could go back, you grew up in the Sierra foothills, is that right?
Mm-hmm. Yep, Nevada County, California, which is one of the easternmost counties, just across from, just west of Reno, Nevada, Lake Tahoe, that area.
Okay. But you didn't have as intense a wilderness kind of upbringing. You spent time outdoors, is that right? But what were the kind of things you were doing to be outside?
I spent a lot of time camping and hiking, and both of my parents were very outdoorsy and nature-focused person. My dad was an endurance runner and spent a lot of his time out on trails, and this area is kind of a hub for endurance running, or was at that time in the in the early 80s. And my mother was in the Sierra Club and a big hiker. So I spent a lot of time outside, and it's a very rural area, but it certainly wasn't survival oriented or deep wilderness oriented. And we were still getting our food from the grocery store and living a very normal suburban life, in addition to spending time outside.
So that's interesting. Then that was going to be one of my questions. Like, can you remember any wilderness knowledge apart from, I guess, getting your bearings and being comfortable in nature? Were there any other things that you remember your parents teaching you out there? I mean, I can imagine berry picking would have been one of the things.
Absolutely. Yeah. Actually going and picking blackberries and making blackberry pie was one of my favorite things to do with my father. And he also was really interested in wildflowers and birds. So certainly learning the flowers and getting familiar with the plant world was part of my upbringing. And same with my mother, Sierra Club hikes and a lot of naturalist folks on the hikes, and learning about the natural world, not just passing through it, was always a huge draw for me. And it was definitely where I felt most at home. I was an only child, and I started kindergarten at 4, and I'm kind of small anyway. So being the youngest and the smallest and socially awkward from being an only child, I did not fit in with my peers in school. And so nature was definitely my solace and where I felt most at home and most safe and most myself.
That's so curious. I'm also an only child, by the way.
Okay.
So I'm interested to hear your experiences. One thing I've always found, maybe not so much now, but the moment when people find out that you're an only child, there's always kind of, I don't know, like a little, do you know what I mean? Like,
Yeah, no, there's definitely some associations that go along with it.
Yeah, I mean, for me, I also had quite an outdoorsy upbringing, not to the extent that, I aspire to be and you are living. But my parents are sailors, and they're currently in the Arctic, or just above the Arctic Circle now. So I just got some very impressive photos of some fish that they caught. So they're very, we did a lot of like sailing expeditions and things. But yeah, I'm curious then. So you said that you retreated to nature because it was like interaction was more, that was kind of more difficult. Is that right? Because for me, it was definitely, it was hard growing up trying to understand how to interact with people. Also, I think it was probably more to do with having ADHD as well, which I now know is another reason why it's really hard to interact with people when you're younger. I don't know what my question was there. Oh, okay, really?
Yep. Also, more recently realized, they say often that women don't figure it out because they're kind of better able to front and look like they're,
Yes.
more normal, if you will. I don't know the best words for it, but often later in life it kind of comes out more. So yes, and also I would say that the ADHD is often seen as the more ancestral mind and way of being, and paying attention to lots of things, and having a less linear sense of time. Yes. So I think that there are gifts as well as challenges in it.
That's been part of the process that I've experienced as well. I don't know. I haven't had a chance to read the book yet, but the title alone immediately gave me some comfort, which I don't know if you're aware of the book. It's called Hunters in a Farmer's World. I don't know if you're aware of that. Yeah, I can't wait to read it.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's all about that kind of perspective that, we have to exist for a certain reason, right? Like we've survived evolution, our kind of way of thinking. So that's a really interesting idea to me, and that was a way of thinking, okay, well, maybe there is a place, like why this is the way it is.
I plan on having it be one of the themes of my second memoir about my alone frozen journey.
Okay,
we'll see if it comes to fruition like that, but yeah, absolutely.
Perfect. Okay. So many ways we could go. My brain's like a rabbit waiting for the hole to go down. Okay, so I'm curious along this ADHD thing still, because this is just something that fascinates me. How did you learn, interaction with people over time? For me, it was something that was kind of slow progress, and it was through patient partners and those kinds of situations that I learned to be, I guess probably more likable might be the actual, might be the term. But was that, how did that process work for you?
Yeah, don't know that the ADHD affected me socially when I was younger. I feel like it was more as I became adult and had different expectations and needed to find a way to plug into the, you know, the square boxes and the modern world and the expectations. That's where it's come out more. And I'm less aware of how it is socially accepted, sometimes being frustrating for people who work with me because I don't have the best follow through. So that kind of thing, or like, you know, not the best time management and that, but not in my direct interactions, just in the way that it impacts my ability to show up as I said and when I said I would.
Yeah, I'm exactly the same. Timekeeping is a real problem, right? Someone explained it really well in a comedy sketch. People may be familiar with it who are from South Africa. Trevor Noah is a South African comedian who was actually on the Tonight Show, I think he was, for a while in the US. But he also has ADHD, and he described that the only way that people with ADHD can think of time is it's either now or not now. So when someone says, "Oh yeah, we need to be at this thing in 12 minutes," it's not now. So
right,
you're not going to.
That's very helpful. Yeah,
you're not going to be on time.
Right.
Okay. Well, so one thing I wanted to ask you about, if you're comfortable talking about it, we talked about discoveries of ADHD as you are older, and that maybe presenting in a different way or becoming more of a realization. But I think you faced some health things when you were younger. Is that right? Like, I think you said something on a podcast that I listened to about hair loss not being the first time when you were on alone. So
yeah, but that was actually, I think I was 39, so I wasn't particularly young.
Oh, okay.
But, yeah, I got some horrendous virus where I lost weight really rapidly and had a really intense fever and couldn't eat or drink for a while and had to be hospitalized and put on IV. And then about 3 to 4 months after that happened, a bunch of my hair fell out, and I was so confused. And not like where it was patchy where you would notice, but I noticed, you know, running my fingers through my hair and getting a wad each time. So that was really helpful because I was prepared for that, because I did some looking into it and learned that really rapid weight loss and dramatic illness can be a potential reason for that.
Okay.
Yeah. So
okay.
I tend to be, I've always been kind of this more fiery type person, and I certainly had a lot of illnesses that fit that, like really high fevers and canker sores and weird fiery aligned diseases, but nothing super dramatic as a child, just like a little sicker than average with higher fevers and more weird ones.
Okay.
Like scarlet fever, for example, I had as a teenager, and that was really miserable and
that doesn't
unusual.
sound fun.
Yeah.
Yeah. I guess the reason why I was asking that, and that was a mistake on my part, I was wondering, are there often, get my thoughts together, often when people are very successful and capable of doing really difficult things mentally, they have experienced something when they were younger that helped them to train that muscle in some capacity. So I thought, oh, maybe it's the fact that you experienced some illness when you were younger and that was a difficult thing to endure. But I wonder, was there something else that you can think of that maybe also helped you build that skill?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, my parents divorced when I was 5. My mother was diagnosed with cancer when I was 7. Again, I'm an only child, and it was just me and my mom. So my mom getting cancer was a pretty big deal and pretty scary. I mean, it's a big deal for anyone, but particularly in that situation where it was just she and I. And I think, I mean, all kinds of things, but I definitely felt socially awkward for a long time and really isolated, and like I didn't belong, like I was born in the wrong time and wanted things and wanted to live in a way that just were not afforded by society. And I suffered deeply with just depression and isolation and wondering what my life was about and what I could do to actually find joy for a lot of my young adulthood, teenagehood and young adulthood. So I would say that there certainly were a lot of mental, emotional, and some other struggles that I had to find my own strength and persevere and, you know, build capacity through.
Yeah, I can understand that. It's, that sounds like a challenge that's going to train you, that's for sure. So when was the time then that you found that nature was helping you and that you were able to make your way towards nature and spending time there, was that when you were younger, or had you started reaching young adulthood? What did that look like?
I would say my teenage years, definitely, kind of my coming of age. I grew up in a gated community, actually, and it had a golf course, and it was this amazing, magical wonderland at night. And so I would just spend hours wandering. That was the nature that I had readily available, and it was safe, right? So my mom didn't worry about me, so I could just go and just wander in the moonlight. There'd be herds of deer eating the grass, and, you know, ponds and trees and moonlight and stars. And that was definitely one of my deepest solaces, and really my coming into myself, and like coming to know and love myself and see myself as a little different than the people around me, and just having different priorities and needs. And that just became greater and greater once I actually was able to spend more time in deeper wilderness. So like I started backpacking as soon as I went to college. I chose a very outdoorsy university that had miles and miles of redwood forest accessible as part of our campus. So I spent a lot of time hiking by myself barefoot in the upper campus of UC Santa Cruz. And that was another real coming of age and finding myself. So pretty early on, as soon as I started to kind of individuate into the person I was, instead of just the grade school person checking the boxes and doing all the things I was supposed to.
Yeah, I know that feeling. Definitely not following the rules exactly. I love it. So what did that look like? I mean, was there a moment, or was it a gradual thing?
Not a moment. It was definitely a gradual thing, and it was a continuation of everything that I'd been. Because even in childhood, where I didn't have access to doing these kinds of skills, it was what I wanted. All of the books that I read and the games that I played, it was all around living off of the land and living wild. So it was, as I grew into myself and became a teenager and then a young adult, and I actually was like, oh, and now I actually have choice, and I get to start doing some of these. And I started trying to teach myself, but I really needed teachers, right? I didn't have that knowledge. So I bought some crappy chemically tanned deer skin at a powwow that had happened at my university, and I tried to make up a moccasin pattern and wear that, but I didn't know how to make moccasins, and it was crappy leather, so it didn't work out. And I wanted to learn the edible plants, and most of the literature on the subject is not all that fabulous. So I was trying to do it on my own, but not really reaching the places that I wanted to. And then I found the ancestral skills world through a skills gathering called Rabbit Stick Rendezvous, and that introduced me to people and showed me that it wasn't just a thing of the past, and that it was actually possible, and that there were people to connect with and learn from. And that completely changed my life. I was 19.
Wow. Then that must have been, can you remember the first rabbit stick that you went to, or who is it that told you about it? But can you remember that moment when you were like, wow, hang on, this is my people. Like I'm not alone in the way I feel.
Absolutely. I still remember it vividly. It was 1995, so it's been a minute. But yeah, I had learned about it through a summer field course I did. I did a backpacking field course, and the instructors had taught primitive skills to hoods in the woods, essentially, bow fires and bow making and carving and whatnot. And so I chose that course because I wanted to learn from them. And then they told me about the rabbit stick gathering. And so as soon as I got off at the course, I signed up and borrowed my mom's station wagon to drive out there. And yeah, it was totally life-changing. And I absolutely remember stepping out of the car and looking around and being like, well, here it is. This is my life now. This is everything I've been looking for. Here we go. Although I will say it really increased my feelings of isolation and not belonging, because that event was 1 week a year.
Yes.
And having touched it, getting that close and then having it disappear again was even more devastating in a lot of ways, and had me feeling even more isolated from the people around me in the rest of my life.
Yeah, I can imagine as well the incredible high of finally finding people who think like you think and want to act like you act. Mm-hmm. Then, being taken away, that's going to create like a definite crash for a while. That's for sure. Yeah. So how did you solve that? I mean, like, it's a year. I guess internet at that point is very early days, so there wasn't that much information out there. It didn't
really exist then that I had access to in 95. I think it was like 97, 98 that I became aware of it more. It was really hard. I mean, I made some friends who I stayed in touch with, and I learned about some workshops and some teachers. And so I was able to throw myself into it in that way. But it was still nobody, I was the weirdo in college who was picking up roadkill and skinning them and what have you. So there were some folks who had some interest, but mostly I was definitely even more the weirdo because I wasn't just thinking about it and longing for it. I was now actively doing it. But over the years, there were more and more of these events. And so I was able to shorten the gaps between them. And then I also would spend my summers running around doing skillsy stuff with friends. And so that was really helpful.
I wonder, did you find, I mean, obviously, like we talked about, there's this amazing moment that you discover your people, but this is something that I've noticed in the last, 5-6 years that I've been spending more time doing this kind of thing as well, and learning more of these skills and becoming more competent with a bow and feeling more like I can support myself in some capacity in a natural environment. I've found, in a surprising way, it's created like a baseline of confidence or calmness. It's hard to actually explain, really.
It's really
I don't know if you
grounding,
understand what
right?
I mean. Yeah, I think that's what it is.
I absolutely do. Like, for example, when COVID hit, I was like, meh, I got this, and I had people reach out to me who had learned with me before who were like, thank you so much, because when COVID hit, I thought, I got this because of that time I spent with you. So yeah, it definitely gives one a sense of confidence that no matter what circumstances, one finds oneself in, one is more likely to have the wherewithal, the tools, the knowledge to take care of oneself and one's loved ones.
Yeah. I also wonder if it's maybe having more of a intricate connection with life and death and being part of the whole system of nature as well means that it's less abstract and less scary.
Absolutely.
If that makes sense. I think that's maybe another reason why it helped me so much, because being afraid of futures or like your own safety, I mean, obviously it's human nature to try and protect your own safety, but realizing that you're part of some bigger thing and time will go on after you, time has gone on for a long time before you, and this is just a little moment that you're lucky enough to have in this world. It's been quite an interesting way of altering my perspective.
Yeah, and Alone was a way deeper dive into all of that stuff, especially my first time when I truly was starving to death. I mean, it really was a near-death experience, and I felt like that was right and natural, and I felt totally comfortable with the idea of staying out there and starving because I hadn't been able to feed myself, just like every other animal would do in a harsh winter if they weren't able to do that. So being a part of those cycles in that deep and visceral way for that long a time really got me to feel, so at peace with the cycles of life and death and the beauty and the magic of them rather than fearing them.
Yeah, that's amazing. I want to jump into Alone in a little bit, but there's just a couple of things I wanted to ask you before.
Yeah, of course. I don't need to rush to it, but it is interesting because there's so many things about my life informed by those experiences.
Yes, I mean, undoubtedly your life must have been completely changed like through having that experience, and it sounds like that's something that you've said in a number of articles and conversations that I've heard you talk about it before. Mm-hmm. But so I'm curious, the wilderness gatherings that you were part of, when was the moment that you went from being a student to like feeling like you had skills that you could share? Was that, how long did that take?
Just a couple of years.
Okay.
I was teaching within, I think I actually really remember because it was 1998. It was September of 1998 when I had an invitation to teach, and I was working at the time at an outdoor ed center in upstate New York and trying to decide whether or not to fly to Idaho in September at the very start of the season. And it was because it was an invitation to teach as opposed to just going there that I decided to take the plunge and fly out and go to it. So yeah, my first one was 95. And so I guess 3 years later, I was teaching.
What were you teaching? Can you remember?
It was fiber arts because I'd been spinning and knitting and weaving and doing and fiber related things for a much longer before being introduced to some of the other ancestral skills. So
Okay.
I felt like I had confidence in that I actually had more to share.
Interesting. So that, I guess that makes sense why, I mean, there's so many of the things that you brought with you on alone. I mean, I remember a giant knitted jumper as well, right? That was something, oh, sorry, I should say a sweater for people who don't know what a
Yes.
jumper is.
We tend to call them sweaters in the US, but I knew what you meant.
Yeah. I mean, that was a genius thought, by the way. It's like, I wonder if they allow people to do that anymore. I don't know.
I have been told that there are many additions to the rule book based on my participation.
Well, I guess
So
that's a
perhaps
compliment. I guess that's
It
a
is,
compliment then.
absolutely. Yeah.
You've got to push the rules, haven't you? You've got to push the rules.
I just felt like it was creative use of all of the resources I was given. So
Yeah, of course. Yeah.
then
why
they
not?
decided to make rules around it.
Yeah. Doug North from the last season. I mean, the new season's coming out very soon, which is very exciting.
Tomorrow,
But-
I believe.
Yeah. Doug North, he had a few little tricks up his sleeve. I don't know if you spoke to him before or anything like that, but he...
Doug was a part of several of my online courses and my online community for a few years before he was on alone. So yes, I followed his journey very closely and was super proud of him.
Yeah, it was good. I really enjoyed him talking about all the modifications he made to his Leatherman multi-tool, and even
He and I
putting
had
on-
talked about that Leatherman for years before he went on. And I was like, it's amazing, Doug, and they'll never let you take it because it's too good. But they did let him take it.
Yeah, whether they allow anyone to have another tricked out tool that good again. But I love that it even had like a float on it, right? Like a lure or some kind on the side that he could take off. Like the level of detail was incredible.
Yeah, he's got that kind of mind. He's very mechanical.
Oh, absolutely. That's for sure. So what is it that you love, or is there anything when you go to these gatherings? What do you love teaching the most? Is there something that you love the most, or is it just the whole experience?
I've taught so much. I mean, one of the things that I love the most is the mindset pieces and the connection and how our mindset changes everything about who we are and the skills we have and how we do in challenging situations. So I do a lot of surthrival. Like one year at the Winter Camp Gathering, I did a whole surthrival series where each day for 5 days, I did a different focus, and we talked about rewilding your diet and rewilding your feet and movement patterns and rewilding your mind and connection practices and all different kinds of things. So that was a memorable one. This past year at Winter Camp, I was there with my son and not his papa. And so I knew that I was going to have a limited capacity. And so what I did in the morning was I just said, here's where my camp is. And I teach a lot of different things. Here's, a handful of them. And whoever finds my camp first, after the time I say I'm going to start teaching, you get to decide what the class of the day is. And it was so fun. It was super, super great. I'm going to try doing that more often because there's so many different things that I teach to,
Yeah.
It's wild foods and fermenting and snaring and fiber arts and buckskin tanning and sewing and all kinds of surthrival application things. And, so I like throwing it to the crowd and seeing what happens.
It's good.
Yeah.
I love it. Do you ever feel tempted to hide somewhere if you say that to everyone?
No, and that would be a good little filter for my students. If you can find me, then we get to have an amazing class.
We're going to interrupt this conversation for just 1 second. First of all, make sure that you are subscribed or following this podcast so that you are always up to date with all the new conversations that are coming along in the pipeline. We have some really good ones coming up, so you definitely don't want to miss those. And then secondly, I said it before in the intro, but just in case you missed that, there is the episode 100 giveaway happening right now. We have 12 sponsors. I think possibly even 13 now. Onyx Hunt and Backcountry Hunters and Anglers have just come on board too. So definitely head over to @theWildDispatch. In the top left, there is a tagged post, and I'll have all the information about how to enter there. Right, back to Woniya. Okay, well, who do you think makes the best students?
Great question. Well, I will say that one of the things that I'm really passionate about teaching is process, not product. So it's people who want to learn for learning's sake and not just to get to make something specific. And people who really like the whole picture, right? I like talking about the details so that people understand the deeper process, as opposed to just, this is how you do this and this is how you do that. So I like to teach people who like to learn the way I like to, and that is understanding the why and not just the how.
Absolutely. Otherwise you're just ticking boxes. It's better, at least in my mind, like when you understand, then you can really, I don't know, take it on board in a faster, deeper way, right?
Yeah.
So lots of things you said in our last few questions really bubbled in my mind. You were talking about teaching walking in a way that is aware of, forgive me if I'm not using the right language, but in a way that's kind of more aware or inclusive of the wild. What does that look like?
Yeah, absolutely. So one thing is choosing footwear that frees your feet so you're not walking around in what feels like concrete boxes, and actually engaging. Your feet have a million, I don't know exactly how many, it's something like 37 bones and 43 tendons and yada yada. Like, they're incredibly complex, and from the time we're young, most of us put them in little boxes that don't allow them to develop and grow and do their thing. I had terrible plantar fasciitis as a kid and was told to wear orthotics and all kinds of foot paint. And I used to roll my ankles really regularly. And once I started rewilding my feet and getting out of the orthotics and the modern footwear, now I rarely roll my ankles. And if I do, it recovers right away. Like, it hurts for a minute and then it's fine. I haven't had any injuries since I changed the way that I move and walk. And I make most of my own footwear. I'm actually, let's see if I can do this in ladylike fashion, but I'm wearing homemade sandals that I made myself right now. That's my go-to. I also make my own footwear for the other seasons as well. And basically just learning to feel and interact with the ground through our footwear, rather than cutting ourselves off at what is meant to be our beginning and major connection to the living earth around us, right? Like, our feet are literally the one part of our bodies that are touching the earth most of the time. And when we cut off our sensation and our ability to engage with it, that has deep repercussions on who we are. I mean, certainly on how we move and our posture, but I think that that's cutting off a lot of feedback that our animal body wants in order to feel like we too are part of that living world and are dynamic and vibrant.
It's so true. It's so true. Everything that you're saying, I mean, it's a slightly different lens, but I many times have gone traveling and met some great fun people, made some good friends, going off bow season in Colorado, trying to get an elk and those kinds of things. And there is definitely a different culture, that's for sure. But wearing these giant clodhoppers, we'd call them in England, just enormous boots, really heavy things, strapped up all the way up your ankles. I have a bit of a reputation. I'm not walking around barefoot, but I wear very lightweight tennis shoes that have no support in terms of protecting my ankles or anything. And people are like, "What are you doing? Like, we have to pack out." And I'm like, "Yeah, I'm fine. We've got like 90 pounds on my back, but." It's exactly the same, not exactly the same thing, but it's similar in the sense that I don't, you might roll them slightly every now and then, but they have a strength because they're used to being used, right? Like, you're using those small muscles all the time. It solves
and you're
big
able to
problems.
correct because you have this capacity. If they're in a concrete box, as soon as you go too far, then you have no way to correct, and then you're going to have a worse injury. Yeah,
like on the knee or something wild, because you just like, there's nowhere to go, but you got to go somewhere.
Right.
It's also, the other thing you're making me think of is I've been lucky enough to spend a lot of time bow hunting in South Africa. My wife is from there, so we go over there, and I've been introduced to some incredible people, and the mentality and the way that people are so much more connected when they are hunting with a bow there.
Sure.
I mean, often it involves taking your shoes off, even though everything there is trying to bite you or stab you or spike you.
Yeah.
You really do see with your feet. You don't look down. You're feeling what's going on around you all the time, and it prevents you standing on sticks that are going to snap and make loud noises, or the temperature of the ground, or there's all these different elements that are informing you. You're completely right. It's little information centers that you've got going on down there that we're ignoring most of the time.
Yeah. And if you're ever out later than you thought you would be and you don't have light and you need to find your way back home, take your shoes off, because your feet will tell you if you're on the trail or if you've wandered off onto it. Like, just taking your shoes off will get you back home safely. It's amazing.
You made me think, well, one time I took my shoes off to be stalking, I think it was springbok at the time, and then I didn't succeed at that, and then I saw another springbok, and another one. By the before I knew it, it was dark and my head torch would run out of battery, and I had no shoes, but I had to somehow get back to my shoes. And there was no trail. There was no trail around.
It's not as relevant there. Yeah.
But I knew I couldn't go back to camp with no shoes. I would never hear the end of it. I would get definitely teased by the locals there. So it took me a while, but I did manage to kind of feel my way back and get there. So yeah, funny. So I wanted to ask you about your name, Woniya, and the origins of that. So when did you take that name? Because that's not your original name, is it?
No, it's not the name I was given at birth. You know, it was the same field course where I was told about the rabbit stick. The tradition was to take a trail name for the summer, kind of to release yourself from your former identity and lean into a new way of being. And I really appreciated the invitation. And I did not like my birth name. I never really identified with my birth name, which is Dawn, as in sunrise.
Yeah.
But I was never a morning person, frankly, and I liked the concept, but I wasn't really around for it very often, and I didn't like the way it sounded, and it would always get written D-O-N, like it was short for Donald, which I really didn't like as a young woman.
Yeah.
So anyway, so I actually found the name Woniya in a book of Lakota stories, and I had never heard about the idea of cultural appropriation. I was a naive young white woman, and I would not make the choice now that I did then. But I did it at a really formative time in my life. And it was as I was getting really interested in these skills and life ways and knew that I wanted to live in a really different way. So I chose something that I felt really represented what I was moving towards. And the word, as I saw, the translation was the breath of life. And so I wanted something that both had a beautiful meaning that I identified with and that sounded beautiful, as opposed to Dawn, which I didn't think sounded very beautiful. So yeah.
Yeah, I was curious about your feelings about that there must have been a point. I mean, first of all, I should say it's clear, like, everything you do is guided by a deep level of respect for the land and the people of the land that you're on. So, yeah, I was just curious. It must have been a tricky moment, because obviously it's your name that you've taken on for a long time, and if you're part of Rabbit Stick and a community there, that, like, it's hard to change your name, right? You've already done it once.
It's very hard. Yeah, it's very hard, and you get a lot of flack for it also, especially if you do it a whole lot of times. But yeah, it was an interesting moment when I was really sitting with that, when I was kind of introduced to this idea of cultural appropriation. And what I ultimately chose was to keep it and invite such conversations and use it as an example. There's this whole idea of, like, calling out versus calling in, like, hey, you can't do that, that's cultural appropriation, where you're lecturing at someone. But when we can point to ourselves and say, hey, we all have blind spots and we all make choices, and then we all learn, I did that too. I was guilty of cultural appropriation, and now let it be, like, rather than just letting myself off the hook and pretending I hadn't made that choice, talk about that choice and have it be informative and educational, and sit with having been that person who did that, and owning it.
Yeah, and there's a level of bravery as well, I think, to that, which is great. I mean, it's. I'm curious if you ever had a conversation with someone from the Lakota people.
I have many
about your name. Yeah. What do they say?
You know, mostly who I've spoken to are younger people, who have said that they think that there would be some people who'd be really supportive of it and some people who wouldn't be. It's like, you know, no one speaks for an entire culture, and it's hard
human nature
to know. Right. Yeah. And, you know, a lot of people are really concerned about language disappearing. There's a ton of native languages disappearing. And so basically I've received support with the idea of carrying on using it from everybody who I have spoken to, and also the idea that not everybody would have the same feelings.
Yeah, absolutely. You said something which I thought was really interesting around cultural appropriation. You've intentionally adjusted the way that you work with buckskin in order to make sure that you aren't appropriating other people's cultures. Tell me about that, because that's something that isn't talked about in Alone. It's not directly obvious, but once you say it, it's very clear from the things that you're wearing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. So for example, I don't use fringe on my clothes. I did once at one time when I was first doing it, and I don't put beadwork on my buckskin. I feel like those are too close to the line of cultural appropriation. I would never want to make, so basically a lot of people, when they work with buckskin, make kind of like reproductions of native looking dress, and I don't do that. And I don't teach people how to do that, and I'm really vocal about why. So all humans today can trace our ancestry back to people who are hand tanning leathers in very similar ways to buckskin. So fat liquor tanning, brain being one type of fat that one can use, but chamois, which is fish oil tan, is a really strong tradition in Europe. So there's different traditions all over the world, and just about every continent where there were people had people figuring out how to make leather that would last rather than rotting using similar methods. It's the most ancient way of tanning, and it is literally the fabric of human evolution. It is what let us move from, equatorial Africa into all of the regions of the world that we live today. So it's a part of all of our human legacy, but if we start taking specific traditions from specific peoples and reproducing those, then it's cultural appropriation. And so I give that a wide berth, and particularly having been someone who took a name that was from a culture not their own, I'm like, I already know that I did this thing, and so I want to be extra, extra careful in what I teach to not be appropriative, because those are choices that I'm actively making now, as opposed to one choice that I made a long time ago before I knew as much as I know now.
Yeah, it's great. Okay, so I want to dive a bit deeper into Alone. You've talked a little about this, but I wanted to ask you again because it's something that really fascinates me. Your first time on Alone, you didn't really ever feel alone, but you left. Mm-hmm. And then the second time, you wanted to leave every day, but you stayed. Correct. So the question is, why?
So the why I left was because I knew that I didn't have a choice, because I knew that I was going to be pulled. And I had thought that I would never choose to leave voluntarily, that I was going to wait until they pulled me, because no part of me wanted to leave that experience. But I had an epiphany one of my final days while walking my trap line, empty again, that the journey, while it was very personal, it was very much my own while I was out there, that this journey was going to be broadcast to hundreds of thousands, potentially millions of people. So eventually the journey was not going to be my own. It was going to be shared with all of these people. And I knew that why I wanted to stay personally was my love for that place and my love for the experience and that life and way of being. But what people would see was me throwing my body under the bus because I was 100% deeply starved for the idea of winning and the idea of money. And so if I chose to stay until they pulled me, I would be representing an ethos that was 100% opposite to my own. And I did not want that to be my story and what people saw. So I pivoted, and it was the last thing I wanted to do. I mean, I was bursting out in tears as soon as I realized that I had to leave, and I had to leave by my own choice, because I needed to represent what feels true to me. And that was, if I wasn't doing well enough, that I was loving my time out there and that I was thriving, that it was time for me to go. And it came down to literally a few hours or even minutes. I mean, I called to TAP the morning that they were coming to do a medical check on me, and I had to get up right at sunrise to call before they loaded that doctor onto the helicopter to do that and stop them from doing that medical check, which would mean that it was a pulled rather than a choice to leave. And I'm really proud of myself for making that choice. So I didn't want to. I did not want to go, but I chose to because it felt like a gift that I could give the world, to see that important a choice, choosing myself.
And it's also, it doesn't matter how much you can explain things or say things within the footage that you produce yourself. Ultimately, someone else is in the editing suite making choices.
Exactly.
So they can tell the story to an extent however they want.
And the second time, wanting to leave and not, I mean, I really wanted to find my edge the first time. Mm-hmm. And one could argue that I found my physical edge, but I also kind of didn't, because I never found my mental, emotional edge. And physically, I continued to feel really good. I was starting to feel the effects towards the very end, but I still felt strong. You know, I thought that I'd be too weak to pull my bow within a couple of weeks. I wasn't. I could pull my bow the whole time. Too weak to do the things I needed to do. I mean, I was still really physically capable until the day I left. When I got back, that's when I kind of actually felt what the toll it had taken on my body, and that's when I felt the weak and all of the physical impacts. So I wouldn't have fully owned a victory if I had stayed the first time, because it felt so natural and easy and I loved it. And the second time, having it be so hard and persevering anyway and staying even when so many parts of me wanted to go, meant that I found my edge and I pushed through it to find deeper parts of the journey and deeper parts of myself. So I was so much prouder for what I achieved the second time, because I knew how much harder it was for me to do it. And that was more transformative in a lot of ways than anything else I could have done. And there was so much that I loved about it. It's not like I wanted to leave every second of every day. It's that there were other things that I would have loved more than being there. And I had to work to find all of the things that I loved about being there, but I did. And I loved it. And I loved that place and the experience. But some part of me was always thinking about back home and my sweetheart and butter and all of the things that I didn't have while out there. And that was just very different than the first time.
Yeah, it's a great answer. I guess my question was going to be, is like, was the environment different or were you different? And I think it sounds like it was a combination of the two. It
was definitely both. And the setup was really different. The first time it was the standard alone season where the last one out here wins. And so I was fully prepared, not prepared as in capable of, but like mentally, I thought we could be out here till spring. And so I went out there to live long term, no limits in my mind. The second time, I knew that it was 50 days, just 50 days. So I never dropped in as deeply. It was a 50-day challenge. It wasn't going in the wilderness to live.
Yes.
And that completely changed it. And that's why it wasn't as sacred and beautiful and magical to me in a lot of ways. I wanted that depth of immersion and to belong there in a deeper way.
You mentioned before, not in this conversation, but in another conversation, that maybe a result of that deadline, the fact that you knew that it wasn't quite the same full life experience in the same way, should I say, that because your mind was checking out a bit more, or you were having at least more thoughts about wanting to leave and you weren't having as much fun, that your body then reacted and started trying to create those excuses for you to get out of there. And that was something that you happening. Could you tell me about some of those? I mean, I've got a list here: tendinitis, toe infection, and bear spray.
Right. Yeah. And that was all within the first week. So it was very, very quick. And I do consulting for people both applying for a loan and training because they're about to go out on a loan. And I always talk about the hump that you have to get over for the first 7 to 10 days. The transition between being well-fed and comfortable and stimulated and all of the things to not any of those things is most intense, I feel, in the early days. And once you can get past that, then it becomes a little bit easier. And then eventually the physical toll can start mounting, and then it isn't as easy. But yeah, my body knew that I wanted to go home, and I felt it was giving me excuses. And we see this on Alone all the time when people are starting to crack. And as soon as they start to actually really harbor those thoughts of going, something will happen that they're like, okay, there you go. It's meant to be. But it's often their body giving them what their mind wants or what they tell their body it wants. And so when my body started doing that, I was like, thank you. I see what you're doing. I appreciate it. that's not actually what I want. And so when the final thing on top of like terrible tendonitis, where I could barely, I mean, it was so hard for me just to click the button to turn my headlamp on and off. I could barely, use my hands to make fire and such because I'd been carrying big rocks and prying muscles off in ice cold seawater. And this crazy toe infection, which it turns out was like a cold sore on my toe. I'd never heard of it. It's called a whitlow. It's like a cold sore, herpes infection that happens on your fingernails or your toenails. So it's nerve pain. It's intense shooting nerve pain in addition to this big, like gnarly green pus-filled blister. So it was so painful that I was limping really bad. And then the final straw was shooting myself in the face with bear spray in the night when I was fumbling for my headlamp. And then I was like, okay. And that was, I believe, the night of day 6, so just before day 7. And I was like, okay, if all of those things happened and I did not choose to tap out, I'm good. I'm golden. I've got this. I'm here, right? And that did end up being the case. Not that it was, a cakewalk by any means, but it was like, okay, I had all of my excuses and they didn't convince me to leave. So I knew that I had won the mental game at any rate. And that to me is the biggest part.
Yeah, it's amazing. So I was intrigued. I remember when I watched Alone Frozen, when you sprayed yourself in the face with bear spray, I felt a deep kinship with you because I also have sprayed myself in the face with bear spray.
Yeah, it's memorable. It's pretty memorable.
Wow. Yeah, what an experience. Yeah, definitely. It was just one of those moments. And the thing is I remember, I mean, I'm sure you probably do distinctly, the moment when it happens and it's like, so for me, I bought a new can of bear spray and it was slightly wider in diameter than the holder that I had before, so it was tight. And I think there'd been a black bear sow and a cub around, and I heard some like kerfuffling in the bushes by me, and I took mine out because I thought it's actually really hard to pull it out of this holder right now, so I'm just going to have it to the side while I'm like doing camp stuff, and I'll just have it there. I'm like making fire or whatever. So it came to later on when I put it back in and the safety had fallen off and it was pointing right by my face. And it was stiff. It was stiff to put it back in, and I just like hit it thinking, it's just going to go in. That moment of like absolute darkness and realization of what's happened, and there's no way of fixing that problem.
No. Yeah.
I mean, did you have water to hand at that point? Were you able to?
No, and I will say mine was not as bad as yours because mine went off and soaked all of my things, but it wasn't like full force right in my face. It was like right next to me, so it was all of the fumes and then all of my stuff completely saturated with it, but it wasn't like no, for me it was like it was in the dark and I'm fumbling for my headlamp and then I press the trigger and I'm like, that's a weird sound.
Oh no.
And then the cloud hit me and I was like, oh my God. Yeah, but it was dark, so I couldn't see that the safety was off.
Terrible.
Yeah.
For me, it was like, actually not that painful when your eyes are closed. I mean, painful, but when you open your eyes, it's like 1,000 daggers stopping you from opening your eyes. It's so bad.
Yeah.
So,
and it was my sleeping bag and my parka and my rain jacket hood saturated with it.
Yeah.
So I rubbed dirt into them to absorb as much as I could, but I didn't have running water. And then I took them to the lake and washed them as best I could, but like I couldn't. And so I had no choice not to wear those. So I just had like weeping eyes and running nose and fiery hands and fiery face for days and days.
Yeah. I remember for the days, because I was out in the boonies somewhere, it was a couple of days before I could get somewhere to wash. The feeling on your skin, definitely, like anything touching it's burning. It's not great, is it?
No, it's not ideal. Yeah,
but at least it's a story.
Empathy for the bears. Yeah, it's true. Yeah, made good TV.
That's exactly what I said. I think I recorded immediately and was like, now I feel sorry for the bears, because it's like next level.
Yeah.
Okay, so enough waffling about my bear spray stories. Something I thought was really interesting as a subject to talk about is statistically women have lasted longer than men on the show alone. Mm-hmm. And I mean, that in itself is an interesting statistic, but there's also so few women each season.
Yeah.
Why do you think that is? I mean, I'm sure there's a number of elements.
Yeah, I don't really know. I mean, what the casting folks will say is that they don't get as many women to apply, but I know a lot of women who have applied, a lot of really wonderful qualified women and who haven't got on, and also sometimes who have gotten on later seasons. So they obviously were qualified and could have been chosen but weren't. I've heard them say that they don't want it to be a battle of the sexes thing. So if it was like equal men and women, then it would be like this gender battle. I'm like, I don't think that that's true. I don't know why the numbers, because they're kind of setting it up to be a battle dominated by men by the way they're doing it. So I don't really know. It's really disappointing. And yeah, I think, if looking at the numbers, it's really clear that women do really well. Like the average stay of the average woman is longer than the average stay of the average man. And a lot of the runner-up and second runner-up, like there's been a lot of season where some of the last people have been the women, but it's just been less of them to go the whole way. And yeah, I don't know. I hope it changes. It's disappointing. This current season just has one woman out of 10, so it's going the wrong direction, unfortunately, instead of the other way. Although the Australia season has 4 out of 10 this women, which I was very excited to see.
Yeah, it's interesting. I mean, my experience, I really loved the way Alone Frozen felt. Like it felt like a different experience as a show that was put on as well, especially it was. Spoiler alert, everyone who hasn't seen it, but the last good chunk of the show where it was only women who were left out there, and I really enjoyed how different an experience it was, because what was important to all of you out there was different. The language that you were using was different. It was coming from a place of encouragement and love for the land and appreciation, rather than, and this is a cliche and it's not always the case for all men at all, but dominance, and it's about like the individual's strength or like lack of willingness to give up, or do you know what I mean? It's like an internal battle versus...
I do. I know exactly what you mean. Yeah, and again, I totally agree. It's not across the board, but it is more what we see, and it's more what's encouraged in both genders, right? We tend to encourage that in men, and encourage the nurturing and the softness in women. But yeah, I loved that about Frozen. Like they didn't have the ability to make it be antagonistic because they didn't have anything but the connection and the beauty and the support and the love of nature. And it was my favorite season for that reason. Like we only gave them those stories to work with, so they made a show that really gave those stories, the spotlight.
And then I guess another element of that show, which is different from all the other ones, is the fact that there was a collaborative nature in the way that you could win. So I think that do you think that it could have, I mean, how much of an impact do you think that had as well? Because you could win it together, Yeah, and that was the hope. I mean, it was so beautiful. We were making plans for how we were all going to celebrate together on day 52, knowing that it was going to take a while before they would let us eat. But we all were really encouraging. So it felt very much collaborative, and it's part of why I was so excited and said yes to the Frozen season, because I didn't like the duking it out, last one out wins mentality and all that went with it. Because you hear a lot of things about different seasons and different connection between the participants, but I didn't have great feelings about the cast and their interactions of season 6 before we went out. Like there was a lot of posturing and tough guy energy, and I didn't love it, and just kind of stayed to myself in my tent more during the social time, partly because I was still madly trying to finish my gear, but partly because I didn't like that. I didn't want that to dominate my field before going out. And I know that's been really different in some of the different seasons. But yeah, just knowing that, one, we were all past participants, so a lot of us were friends already. I mean, I was already friends with Callie and Michelle and knew of and had interacted with a bunch of the other folks. And then that nobody had to lose for someone else to win. We could all win together. There was a really beautiful camaraderie and mutual support of the whole cast before going in. Okay, this is the last interruption to my spangly chat with Woniya Thibeault. Again, make sure that you are giving us a follow, or that you are subscribed on whatever platform you like to listen, and definitely check out that episode 100 giveaway. It is a fantastic opportunity. There's a bunch of amazing gear given from a lot of great outdoor companies. Head over there and check it out. But now we're going to head back to the conversation with Woniya. So, two things which I thought were curious that people might not know is that you've never actually applied for a loan. Is that right?
True. Yeah, they recruited me.
Yeah, which is amazing. I mean, obviously you had such a history in this world of, I guess surthrival is the word that you used. I think that's great, but also those skills. So that's something which I thought was really interesting. So what did that look like? How did they convince you? Were you interested? Because TV shows, I mean, I don't really like survival TV shows in general.
No, God, me neither. No,
yeah.
No. I had already, the show Mountain Man had tried to recruit me once, and they had come out, and I'm not supposed to say this out loud or whatever, but I felt like they really wanted to spin my life a certain way. They're like, okay, here's the story arc. And I'm like, the story arc? I thought it was my life you were filming. And they're like, I mean, yeah, it is, but it's your life when it looks like this. And I'm like, but my life doesn't look like that. And they're like, no, but it can. It will. And I was like, yeah, no, thank you. So I had a bad taste in my mouth about the idea of reality show. Naked and Afraid also tried to recruit me before they had their name. And they were like explaining it. And I was like, I don't know, this doesn't really feel like the way I like to approach these skills. And then the name came out and they called it Naked and Afraid, and I'm like, that's the polar opposite of everything my career is about, trying to teach people, that we should be terrified to be in nature. And so I don't think that I would have answered the email from the casting director. The way that it landed, and I'd go into this in my book, Never Alone, but I had just come out from this really amazing, not fully Stone Age, but like minimalist backpacking trip, like where I slept in a bison robe for my sleeping bag and a pack basket instead of a backpack. And it was all wild foods and not very much of them. And I had come from this amazing magical adventure where I had spoken aloud to the rocks before I left. This is what I want more of in my life. This kind of deep nature immersion with simple gear and longer term and much deeper than this. I left the trailhead having said that, got home, checked my email, and I had an invitation from the casting director to talk to the loan. And I was like, that's not what I meant. That isn't what I was asking. That's not what I was picturing. But every conversation, like I decided to answer the email, and then just all of these things kept happening that just kept being messages from the universe saying, no, this is the thing, you have to do it. And I also had a lot of friends who had done the show. And so I called them and they were like, yeah, no, it's real. It's actually just you and cameras and your gear dropped in the wilderness. Like, it actually is what they say it is. And they were like, and it's amazing. And I loved it. And you will love it too. And you'll be great at it. You should do it. So that's why I said yes, was the combination of the universe giving me messages I couldn't deny and people that I trusted saying, yep.
Was the camera work a daunting aspect, or was that something you had previous experience with?
I mean, I didn't have previous experience with it, but they gave you training, and yeah, I liked it. I enjoyed it. I'm a creative person. I'm a maker, I'm an artistic person, so I liked the challenge of it. I mean, it was a significant amount of time, energy, and calories that it used up, and so that was hard. But besides that, I didn't mind.
Did you find it frustrating then? Because I can imagine in the fantastical world where I go on alone, I would have these ideas about interesting things like shots or angles or little stories to tell. Did you find it difficult that you spent time creating those things and then they didn't make it on air?
Yeah, it was really frustrating. A lot of the things that felt most important to me and felt like they would make the best television didn't get shown. Like the morning that I got my first game out there with my bow was the morning that I woke up and was like, it is fall equinox and it is the balance point of the year when everything changes after this. And this is the day my luck is changing. And today I am eating food. And I went out and I went fishing and I didn't get any fish. Like, I never got any fish because my water was insanely shallow. And so I was like, I was wrong. And then on my way back, I saw a squirrel in just the right spot and I shot it off the branch and pinned it to the ground. And on my way back with that squirrel, I saw a grouse and I shot the grouse. So I got 2 animals on the way back on that day. And they, for whatever reason, they didn't show the footage of me saying that, and they didn't show the squirrel. They just showed the grouse. And also, I did not have snare wire. All of my snaring was using my hair and fishing line and parachute cord, and they didn't choose to show that. And I'm like, but that would be amazing TV. But, you know, so there were so many things. And then I was very skills oriented. I was tanning hides, and I was cutting willow and making baskets. And, you know, I was doing so many things and showing those all in great detail. And they didn't show any of that. And they didn't show like the experiences that really meant so much to my heart either. So it wasn't just the, you know, this is this and that is that, and here's how I make this. It was also the really moving moments. A lot of those got left out. But that's why I wrote my book. And so in that way, maybe it was just as well.
Maybe it was a good thing that it was left out. You felt like you needed to set the record straight. I guess I was going to ask a question and it's just escaped my ADHD brain. Yeah, part of the story you were saying about not actually having any trapping wire, and that being a big part of the story, and then problem solving and figuring that out. I mean, that's incredible that you managed to adapt without, I mean, talk me through your thinking. Were you considering taking trapping wire, and why did you not take it?
So it's funny. So I was considering taking trapping wire. You know, you bring 12 or 13 things and then hone down on them. At that time, if you go back and watch Alone, you will see that at no point before season 6 had anyone successfully snared on the show. Okay. I am not a trapper. Yeah. I have never snared anything. I grew up in California. And frankly, I was vegetarian until I was 19 and started eating roadkill. I was against trapping and hunting. More trapping, though. I felt like it was cruel. So I wasn't that interested in trapping. I thought I might end up doing it and thought that it would be smart to learn. But I wasn't that interested in doing so, and I really felt that fishing and big game were going to be my major strategies. And so I was still considering bringing snare wire. And then we got to location, and the weather was so horrendous even before we launched, just in the, you know, week or so that you have on the ground. I was picturing building a shelter using just snare wire and the yarn from my sweater, which had been my plan, instead of parachute cord, and picturing the wire bending back and forth as my tarp went in the wind and then eventually snapping. And I felt, okay, I know that I need shelter. I don't know that I'm going to be relying on snaring. And then I had a conversation, very memorable, with another woman on the show, Michelle, and she's like, well, walking me through, you know, this thought process. She's like, well, here's the thing. I mean, no one's ever successfully snared on Alone, right? And I was like, that is true. And she's like, and is there a reason why you think you are likely to be the first person to be successful where so many other people with a lot of experience haven't? And I was like, that is an excellent point. No, I cannot see a good reason why that is the case. I've never snared, and I'm not really even all that enthused about the idea of snaring. And I was like, and that was a pretty major point towards convincing me to leave it. So the need for parachute cord for a variety of things that I knew I would be needing, and not knowing whether or not I was going to be successful at snaring. And so I left it. And actually, Nikki Van Schindel ended up taking the wire that I had brought as one of her items because she didn't have enough or not the right kind or something. So I passed my snare wire along to her, and she took it and snared successfully.
What did you guys talk about that afterwards?
No.
I was just wondering if there was an apology coming your way.
No, I mean, Michelle and I talked once, and I never brought that up with her. It's in my book, but I didn't name her. I just said another person. Yeah.
Okay. Talking about those choices, the things that you took, something, I guess this is just interesting for me, but Dave Holder, who is obviously a big part of Alone, but one of the unknown elements, I guess, one of the food rations is pemmican, which I believe you took on both times. And I think, and I might be wrong, but I think Dave told me that his wife Brenda makes the pemmican. Is that correct?
She does, yes, and it's fabulous. But on the frozen season, she did not make our pemmican because she had all she could do to make the pemmican for season 9, which launched a month before us. So she did not make it for us, and I really, really noticed the difference. It was nowhere near as amazing as Brenda's pemmican.
Okay, it's official, everyone. We heard it here first.
Yeah.
Brenda's the best.
It's true.
Okay. How long did that pemmican last? I'm curious. I mean, it's...
Both times I ate the last bit of it before they came, right? Like the day they came to get me.
Really? Okay, so you were just being very disciplined about how you rationed it out?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So you've also had some quite... what's the word? I don't know if this is the correct word. Barraging or like opinions about the use of soap. People taking soap.
I always just thought that it was one of those silly things that they put in to just round out the list. I never thought that anyone would actually take it, but people thought that that was the same thing about a sewing kit, and I was very seriously considering bringing a sewing kit on season 6. So everyone's different, but I hadn't thought that soap was critical given the critical nature of your 10 items in a survival situation.
So talk me through that, because in my mind, and I'm just curious because I would, and this is maybe just a lack of experience on my part, but I mean, I know there are so many essential things out there and it's really hard to choose your 10 items, but infection and hygiene would be something that would be on my mind, because that could potentially cause a medical extraction in some situation. But so I guess one thing I did read is that there are some plants that have a soap kind of quality to them. Was that a knowledge that you had that you ended up using when you were out there?
Yep. There was buffalo berry out on season 6, and I used that to wash my hair and body. And there was yarrow also. I mean, just in one spot, the very, very far reach. But yeah, I felt, and they give you a first aid kit also.
Okay.
So yeah, that you need food to live.
Yeah.
You may end up having something that turns into an infection, and if it does, soap is not probably going to stop that infection. Antibiotics, like an antibiotic cream or herbs, are going to impact that. So soap makes an infection less likely if you're washing your hands regularly or if you have a cut. But once you've got that infection going, soap isn't going to kick it back. So
it's not
to
going to
me,
fix the problem.
Compared to the other things that I knew would have a huge impact in my ability to get the resources I needed, make the shelter that I needed, tools to be able to make everything else, soap versus an axe, no question.
You make a good point. So,
but the guy who won season 12 brought soap,
Yeah.
But he used it to shower with. He didn't use it in an application to fight infection or stop infection or what have you.
Nathan Olson, who was actually on the podcast a little while ago.
Okay.
And so the thing that's interesting, I don't know if you know much about Larry Dean. I mean, you must. Larry Dean Olson and the whole...
I knew Larry, yeah.
You did? Okay,
yeah.
Amazing.
Yeah. He started Rabbit Stick.
Did he? Okay.
Yeah, back in the day. And then Dave Westcott carried it on, but Larry Dean was kind of the progenitor of the very first iteration of Rabbit Stick, which was a prior version than I attended. But he used to come to Rabbit Stick with a passel of kids. And I probably interacted with Luke and Nathan at some point, but not all of the kids came. But at any rate, yes, Larry was a very prominent person in the primitive skills world.
Yeah, that's amazing. I hope at some point to do an episode celebrating Larry. And I've actually talked with Nathan about it and talking to some people. So maybe at some point in the future, I'd love to talk to you and your experiences. Also, Moors as well. Kahansky, I'm talking with Dave about doing an episode about Moors, which is exciting.
I talked to Moors on the phone before I went out for season 6 too, actually.
Oh, amazing. Okay, you did. What did he say?
Honestly, he died within a year of that. He was already kind of starting to be a little bit less sharp at the time. So we just talked a little bit about some of the stuff that I already knew from his book, but there weren't a lot of particular gems of wisdom in the conversation, but it was really great to chat with him.
Yeah.
Regardless. Yeah.
Just to get the positive energy from that experience as well before going out there, right? I mean, that's got to be really powerful in itself, I can imagine.
Yeah. And I'd done classes with Moors at Rapid Stick, and I'd read his books, and so it was really sweet.
Yeah, amazing. The last of the items that I wanted to ask you about is salt. there's another thing which you said, again, I mean, I know you've explained, like, in the greater scheme of things, that's a down the road problem that you have to deal with. Attaining calories is the most important thing. But how did you get salt? I mean, the answers are probably going to be obvious from frozen because of where you were and your proximity to the ocean.
Frozen wasn't an issue. Yeah.
But in season 6, were there ways in which you could acquire salt? Like, how did you solve that problem?
So this is another addition to the current Alone rulebook based on my season.
Okay.
I manufactured buttons for my parka and my insulated overalls out of Himalayan great big chunks of Himalayan sea salt, which I ground down into cylinders and then sliced and then drilled into buttons and then dipped in cheese wax so that they wouldn't melt.
You genius.
That was my friend, the same friend who was hanging out with Moores and got me on the phone with him, gave me the idea for a little like toggle. He thought a toggle, and then I took it and ran with it and made the buttons. But that was my friend Rich, who did my modifications for my Leatherman for me, and who also was part of boot camp for Alone season 6 and didn't get selected. But he, when he didn't get selected, he was like, okay, Woniya, I'm going to do whatever I can to give you strategies and help you out. I'm going to make your Leatherman. And yep, exactly. Yep. And he said, I tell you right now, Woniya, it's going to come down to you and Jordan Jordan needs a lot more calories than you, and he's got 2 kids at home. So he was,
He was right.
Yes, he's a wise man.
Yeah, that's amazing. Okay, well, that's so good to know. I don't know if you, I haven't heard that before. That's a great little nugget of information.
It's in my book, and it's apparently, someone was just, I think I saw something on Reddit, like, I think I've gotten a little bit of flack on Reddit for cheating, and I'm like, it wasn't cheating. You have to have buttons on your jacket, and there was no stipulation about what you can make them out of. It was creative use of resources, but exactly. It's a rule now. Now it would be cheating.
I think you and I think in a similar way, which is like, rules are made to be bent or broken, right? Like, it's just, until it's a rule, right. Fine, do what you need to do. Yeah. Exactly. Okay. I love it. That's such a good thing. And clearly I've not read your book, but I'm excited to read it. So that will be, that's on my reading list now. So
there's an Audible version too. I narrated.
Yeah, no, I saw, and I was kind of running around. I didn't have time. I really wanted to have read before talking to you, because I'm sure it would give me the opportunity to ask some other deeper questions. But yeah, maybe at some point I'd love to talk to you again.
Sounds good. Yeah.
So something I really wanted to talk to you about as well is, my title here is Gratitude in Wilderness, Even When Things Are Difficult. Mm-hmm. That's such a big part of, at least to me, who you are and your story and your capability, like your mental strength and your ability to focus on positivity and joy, even if other people are cracking and getting very frustrated with obviously very difficult scenarios. How do you exercise that gratitude? Was it something that came to you as a practice later, or was it just naturally in your nature?
I mean, I think that there are ways that it's true that it's part of my nature. Mm-hmm. And I think, as we talked about earlier, I think going through some hardship really helps you know to be grateful for when times are less that way. And I also was part of a program in the year before I did Alone, the 2 years before, that really had a lot of gratitude practices built into it. And that was really powerful for me. So it was a deepening of that innate practice that I already had. And so I did a lot of work before going to Alone. Like, a lot of people are trying to build their skills and source their gear and all of that. And I had some of that, but largely what I was doing was thinking about ways I was making my gear as opposed to building my skills, and setting up routines for myself that I could easily follow out there to remind me about gratitude and giving thanks and what have you. So like singing the sun down, stopping whatever I was doing at sunset every night and watching and singing to the sun as it set into the lake. That was huge. thanking the sun for rising every morning, because when you are living in the wilderness in the Arctic in winter, you are really, really grateful to see that sun come up.
Yeah.
And making offerings whenever particularly when I cooked game, an offering whenever I had food coming in. But then also just the practice of looking for something positive in every challenge. What is the gift in the challenge? So, it would be like, okay, well, here's another day without any food, but look at all the time I'm saving by not sitting and cooking. I can make my shelter that much better. And hey, making my shelter better saves calories, because those are calories I'm not burning shivering. Right? So looking for the positive and focusing on that, because I really believe that whatever we give our mental energy to, we feed and it builds. And that's the classic, half empty versus half full. It's the same damn cup, but how you see it changes your experience of the cup, and changing your experience changes everything. And the body responds too. I mean, I think why I felt so strong and capable and good physically was the same, because I told my body it was doing great.
Yeah.
I appreciated my body and I gave it positive feedback, and it said, okay, then let's do this thing,
Yeah, amazing. I was wondering about that. I personally, maybe a couple of years ago, started a gratitude journal, and the act of that has made such a difference, and it's incredible how it can build literally positive pathways in your brain, where you are walking around and you're looking at the world in a way where you're looking for the thing to be happy about or excited about, rather than looking for frustration or looking for something that's annoying you. It's so curious how that can change. So yeah, that's brilliant that you have those
neural networks. And I had that practice too. I mean, I was closing my day every day with 5 things I was grateful for, and not repeating those things. And that, yep. So and that was before I didn't have a journal when I was out there, but before going out, that was a practice that I had.
Yeah. Interesting. Okay. One other thing I wanted to ask you about was a term that you used about having a wilderness ethic, and that influencing some of the choices that you made while you were out there during Alone. Things like changing the way in which you build your shelter to be completely different from the way that you planned, because there weren't enough trees in the area and you didn't want to cut every tree that takes forever to grow down in the area. Has that been a big part of your life, your whole life? And then I guess, were there other things that were influenced by in your time in Alone? What else was influencing those choices? So that's a bit of a backwards question there.
It was very much, my background and my educational background are in botany and environmental science and ecology. So that's always been very much a part of me and a part of how I am when I go into wild spaces. And it felt extra important when I went into a wild space that I was, a foreigner in, essentially, and asked it to feed me and shelter me and support my life. So I felt if there's ever a time to be really careful and respectful and ask and listen to the answers and be good to my word, now is the time to do it. And I felt that the land really saw me and appreciated that and gave to me because of that. So that it's kind of ironic, because I had a practice there of always asking before I cut a tree. And now I bought 90 acres of beautiful forested land with the money from Alone Frozen. And I had one of my students ask me, do you ask every time you cut a tree there? And I'm like, you know what? That's interesting, because I don't ask. But I'm in a different situation where now I am a steward of land that has been really damaged by humans. The land I bought was hydraulic mined, and the forest is really overly thick based on, hundreds of years of fire suppression. And at one time, the average amount of trees per acre in our county was 20 to 30, and now it's 200 to 300. So it's really thick and overgrown. And so now I'm trying to bring that land back to ecological health, and I'm doing it in a landscape way and a landscape scale as opposed to an individual way. So I think it's kind of interesting and ironic that it's different now, but it's still towards that goal of that wilderness ethic and tending the land and helping it be healthy and thrive. And, 5 oak trees growing close together are all going to be small and spindly and subject to disease because none of them are getting enough resources. But if you cut 4 of those oak trees, then 1 has access to enough resources, and it's going to be more likely to be healthy and stately and become an old growth tree, whereas all 5 of those would probably have died much sooner before. So things like that. So did my time on alone change my wilderness ethic? It did, in that it really illustrated to me the degree to which the world is sentient and paying attention and notices what we do and notices our heart and notices whether we're true to our word, right? If you say, okay, I'm going to go in and I'm going to ask permission and I'm, can I cut this tree? And the answer is no. And you're like, well, but I really need it. So then you cut it anyway. Well, that's way worse than never having asked for permission, right? You're just telling the land that you don't respect it and you're not going to respect its answer. Then why bother asking? And that comes up when I talk to people about that. That comes up, well, what if it means not doing something that's really important for your life in that situation? Well, if you were in a situation that was so dire that asking wasn't appropriate, then maybe not have asked. But if you're bothering to ask, I think it's important to listen, and we don't always know the repercussions. Did that answer your question?
No, it did. It also answered a few things in my mind. I mean, obviously, wildfire has been such a big issue here and many other states on the West Coast. But when you give a statistic like that of normal density of trees and then it's literally 10 times that, then surely that's going to be one of the factors as well of why there's just so much more fuel than historically or naturally there should be.
And the fire return interval here should be every 7 to 10 years, like how often fire would pass through. And it's been, 200 plus years since a lot of places have burned.
Yeah, it's scary. It's scary stuff. So I'm going to wrap up soon, I promise.
No worries.
Okay, so you mentioned before that some of the top mistakes that people make on alone are making giant shelters and cooking over fire rather than in a pot, because you lose all the good stuff like the fats straight out of the animal into the fire, which is, a sacrifice in its way. It's an offering, but it's not very good for your own benefit, that's for sure. I'm wondering, are there any other surprising mistakes that people often make when they are out alone that are things that maybe, I'm often from my armchair heckling saying, why are you building such a big shelter? Like, stop it. Yeah. But is there other things which are more nuanced than that?
Yeah, there's lots of them. One of the big things that I see too is people doing so much work to preserving their game rather than just gorging when they have it. We saw, and William, he did amazing on season 11. He won. But what was he doing stashing so much of his food when every time the pine marten came and ate it? He lost so much of his calories.
So much.
He should have just eaten. It is safe once it has entered your body and is stored, in your fat or in your muscles, because most of us are not in a position to be putting on fat while we're on alone. So wasting a lot of calories in order to preserve food that may go to waste rather than eating it when you need it and storing it on your body. That's a huge one. Gosh, there's so many. Looking at that photo of your family too often and thinking about your life back home, that is often when, that is often the precursor to the tap out. That mental game, and also focusing on the challenge instead of looking for the gifts. That's a huge one. Mental is everything. I can see when people are cracking, their whole demeanor changes. And once you start really considering leaving, you will find a reason to, right? Either your body or your mind are going to find a reason to, 100%. So keeping the mental game strong from the beginning, and also that recognizing that transition time that is coming is going to be really hard, and then it's going to get easier. A lot of people are like, if it's this hard now,
yes,
I'm out.
How could I possibly keep going?
Right.
Yeah.
And so not trusting yourself. I think a lot of people don't have a good relationship to self going in, and self is all you've got out there. So work thinking about it ahead of time and working on setting up best practices before you're in a position where your life depends on them. Because when your life depends on them and everything's really hard, that's not the time to all of a sudden start up the better mental health practices, right? You have to have that going in. It has to be your habit. I also think people don't know what it feels like to be hungry. A lot of people go in never having starved, and then it kicks their butt. Well, sure. Maybe teaching your body what it feels like to go hungry so that you don't panic when you have those sensations and you understand that you can push through that edge. That's a smart thing. So there's a lot. You know, I mean, I do this for a living, right? I am consulting with people, training for Alone and what have you. So there's a lot of things. There's a lot of things that
absolutely.
we talk about and that I do.
So you're also, I think, in the process of writing your next book. Is that right?
I mean, I'm in the process of working
Planning
on a proposal for it. I have a toddler and I have 90 acres.
Yeah, of course. I was wondering how you're going to have time.
Yeah, so it's more of a winter project and it is summer now.
Yeah.
So I'm not currently, no.
But it will be, it's on the horizon at some point.
It's on the horizon, yes.
Well, that's exciting. Yeah. Okay, well, Woniya, I think I've taken more than enough of your time today. Thank you so much for sharing so many answers, and thank you. Where do you want to send people? I mean, there's lots of different places that people can go. Where's the best places for people to go if they want to learn more about you and also what you have to offer? Because you offer a great deal of different things. So
Yeah, so WoniyaThibeault.com is my website, and you can find my online classes, my in-person classes, my Patreon membership, which is really awesome, a lot more interaction and kind of behind the scenes to my life, and a real strong skills-based community through that. Read my book, but you can find the links to all of that through WoniyaThibeault.com.
I'll put that in the show notes as well, so it'll be easy for people to get to. Amazing. Thank you, Woniya. And yeah, good luck with everything, all the jobs in the summer. And hopefully I'll speak to you soon.
Sounds great. Yeah, thank you so much, Robin.
Right. That is the 100th episode done and dusted. A huge thank you again, Woniya, for coming on the podcast and putting up with all my questions for such a long time. And also a huge thank you to everyone who's listening today, who's listened in the past, and everyone who continues to keep listening to all these episodes as they come out each week. It has been an absolutely amazing experience, and the encouragement and suggestions I've received from everyone has been absolutely mind-blowing. I'm really enjoying myself doing this, genuinely. I'm not making it up. It's just such a good time getting to talk to incredible people like Woniya and the many, many other guests who've come on. So yeah, thank you to all the guests. Thank you to everyone who's been listening. Thank you, thank you, thank you. If you have enjoyed this episode and you are new, then by all means, make sure that you are following and subscribe to the podcast. Another way that you can show your appreciation is by giving us a 5-star review. It really does go a long way. The technology gods, they'll shine kindly on us with those good reviews, and they'll make sure that lots of people see it. So that would be appreciated too. It means that I get to talk to more amazing guests and have incredible conversations with people like Woniya. All of the links to learn more about Woniya, her story, read her book, visit her websites, are all written down in the show notes. So go down, check it out. You will not be disappointed. Okay, it's probably time for me to stop waffling now. That's 100 episodes done and dusted. Here's to another 100 episodes.
Welcome to the Wild Dispatch.